Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Friday, July the 10th. Overall markets this morning, a little bit of a push towards the downside, but yesterday we ended up having a nice rally on the SPY and Qs. The SMH was moving nice in the pre-market. There's a couple nice names that ended up having a nice push right off the bat, like AMD. But besides that, with the overall markets here now, we are in between the middle of the range. We'll talk about this a little bit more here in a second. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Can you guys hear me and see my screen this morning? Everything should be good. Let's see. What's up, everyone? Good morning. What's up, Calvin, J-Tan, B Roots? Good morning, Maria, Cody, Lamit. What's up, Rocket, Z Norris, Kevin? Good morning, Knight, Juan. What's up, Robert, Maria, Alejandro? What's up, everyone? Julius, Jose, Bobby, Miss Reggie, Ultimate. What's up? What's up? Good morning. All right, perfect. Yeah, with that being said, let's really hop straight into the charts for today. There's no red folder news to talk about, so we'll just quickly hop onto the charts, starting off with, of course, the SPY and Qs, and then we will make our way down into some of the tech names that we do have. So starting off here with the SPY. As you can see here for the SPY, if we're on the daily time frame, you can see higher lows are still being built. I'd say we're still stuck technically inside of this range. We're more so ranging on the QQQ compared to the SPY in itself. The key levels that we have, if we're on the lower time frames on the hourly, is this right here. So we have our 740 and our 750 marked out. So we have our 740 and our 750 marked out. As you can see, this is the top of the range, which is our 750, and the bottom of the range, which is our 740. Yesterday, we ended up getting above our previous day highs and pushing up in towards the top of the range, which is at 750 here on the higher time frames. And currently, we are right at the top of the range. If we do want to see a continue push towards the upside, we need it above our 750 for any sort of push higher. What we don't want to see is a potential rejection off this level for a push right back down in towards the middle of the range. If we're looking at this more so on the daily time frame, currently we are forming a potential downtrend right here, break on SPY. So what I would like to see is the candle close above, really the 750 as I mentioned, for a push all the way back up in towards our all-time highs here, which in this case is our 750. So coming into today, let's have these levels marked out. We can just kind of actually refine this one here as well. So let's refine this all the way up in towards that 752. So coming to market open, really the main level that we have marked out today is going to be that previous day highs along with our previous day lows, which is our 745. All right, let's go on to the QQQ here next. Let me actually grab some water as well before we head on to the Qs. Okay, let's head on to the QQQ here. Currently, we are on the daily time frame, and as you can see, the daily is more so consolidating. We are in between this range for the past month and a bit for the Qs. We just kind of been ranging in between that 750 along with that 700. At least for today, if we do want to break outside, moving forward, we kind of do have this wedge pattern forming here on the daily time frame. For the Qs, if you do want to see continuation, it is going to be above our 730 here on the higher time frames. And of course, the SPY, sorry, the SPY would have to break above key technical levels here as well. So for the Qs coming into today, some of the major levels that we have marked out. Number one is going to be our 726. This is a major level here. This is also our high that we created here on Monday. And you can see yesterday we kind of pushed up in towards this general area and we're having a little bit of a reaction off this level, sorry. So for the Qs, if we do want to see some upside coming into market open, we really need it above our previous day highs and above our Monday's highs for any sort of continuation towards the upside. Another possible scenario is the hold of our 714. We ended up bouncing off that level yesterday. So another possible scenario is just the bounce off our 714 for a push right back up and towards that 726. If you go into the lower time frames here, at least coming to market open, it might be a little bit of a trickier session today, just based off of where the location is right in between its previous day's range. As I mentioned, if we do want to see some upside currently, we need it above our previous day highs for any sort of continuation. Right now, I'm not sure if we do have any news, but it seems like we're getting a little bit of reaction here on these SPY and Qs as we speak. I'm sure there's probably some sort of news event currently. All right, let's take a look at the SMH here. So the SMH, more so on the daily time frame, this one has been lagging a little bit behind ever since we had MU earnings yesterday, or sorry, this week. We came back down into that 560 here on the higher time frames. And as you can see for the SMH, we're kind of creating more so this double bottom here on the daily chart. For the SMH, really, you like to see it back above this 640. The 640 is key on the higher time frames right now. What we can potentially form is this head and shoulders. If we do kind of reject off this 640, right, it could come all the way up into that 640 reject and push right back towards the downside. But what I would like to see here for the SMH continuation back towards the upside is above our 640, sorry, for a push up all the way up and towards that 680. If we're looking at the key, or sorry, if we look at the SMH today, the key levels that we have marked out is going to be that previous day lows. Other levels that we can have marked out here as well is going to be our high that we created here on Wednesday. So we're going to mark out our previous day lows coming to market open. We're also going to mark out our Wednesday's highs here as well. If we do want to see continuation towards the upside, the reclaim setup above this 605 for any sort of continuation back towards the upside. That's going to be the main scenario. Another possible scenario is going to be the bounce play here off our 595 for a push up in towards that 615 here as well. The only way you're interested in a downside move is if price does reject off this previous day highs, then we can be looking for a potential fade back down in towards our gap that we created here on Wednesday, which is our 595. Okay, with that being said, let's go on to the with that being said, let's go on to the IWM and then we'll head on to a couple futures charts here and then we'll make our way down into some of the tech names that we do have for today. All right, starting off with, of course, the IWM. This one, let's take a look at this on the weekly time frame. This one is bullish. As you can see, higher lows are being built. It's taking a little bit longer to develop, but we're coming back down into that 9 EMA here on the weekly time frame. We're still holding up very nicely on the IWM. Now we just want to see that push back up in towards that all-time highs here, of course. On the daily time frame, as you can see, we are pulling back right underneath that 21, but we're just coming back into a key retest level here on the higher time frames, and so far it is holding. So for the IWM, we just want to see that push back up in towards that all-time highs here, of course. If we're going on to the hourly time frame, the key levels that we have marked out is just going to be this right here. Right now, you can see we've been ranging in between our 300 along with that 295, broke underneath it. We actually had a retest lower, and now we're reclaiming back above, and we want to see that potential reversal. So accumulation, we have our manipulation, and now we want to see that push back towards the upside, towards our 300 and above. So for the IWM, the key levels that we're going to have marked out today is going to be that previous day highs. We can just mark out that 298. Above our previous day highs, we can be looking for continuation back towards the upside. Okay, let's go on to the features charts next for ES. As you can see, we've been ranging quite a bit within the past, I'd say this month so far. If we're looking at the price action starting from July the 1st all the way to now, which is July the 10th, we have been ranging in between our 7,500, or sorry, in this case, our 7480s, along with our 7580. So ranging within inside of this 100-point range. You can see the levels are being respected very nicely at the bottom of the range, also at the top of the range here as well, along with the middle of the range that we do have. As for the ES, if we want to see upside, there's really only one scenario here today. It's going to be above our previous day highs hold for continuation and to also break outside of this range here. If we do reject off our 75.80, then we can see a move all the way back down in towards that 75.40, which is the middle of the range. If we go on to the NQ here, the key levels that we have marked out is our 29,200. Other levels that we have marked out now is going to be our previous day highs, which is our 30,000. If we want to see some upside here on the NQ, above our previous day highs for any sort of continuation towards the upside. If you want to see a potential rejection, what we like to see is the rejection off our 29,600. All right, with that being said, I'm going to head on to some tech names here now as well. So if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Okay, so with that being said, let's go on to some tech names that we have coming into today, starting off with Tesla, and then we'll make our way down. So for Tesla, as you can see, the daily chart is really consolidating within the past month, a lot more range, really kind of consolidating right around these EMAs here as well. So no real clear direction on the daily time frame. On the hourly time frame here as well on Tesla, we're just respecting these levels very nicely. What we have marked out is our high that we created for this week. We have our low created for this week here as well. And you can see we've been respecting the highs and respecting the lows, just bouncing off key technical areas for Tesla. Now the key levels that we have marked out coming into today is going to be our high that we created here, which is our 402. If we do want to see some continuation today above our 405 for a push towards the upside, another potential bounce play here is off our 402.50 for a move back towards the upside. I am interested in Tesla if you in shorts underneath our 402.50, but I would have to get back underneath that pre-market low along with this key level here on the higher time frames. So levels that we can have marked out, 402, and then we can also mark out that previous day highs here as well here on Tesla. Let's take a look at AMD. AMD is one of the names that is still holding up compared to the overall markets. As you can see, higher lows are being built on AMD very nicely. Now what we like to see is the break back above our 560. If we can do that, we can see a push up in towards our all-time highs and above. Key levels that we have marked out on AMD is really just this 550 along with this 560 general area. Of course, we can mark out the bottom of the range as well, which is our 500. So for AMD, let's actually just refine this level, previous day highs, and we can just drag this down. So coming into market open here for AMD, as you can see yesterday, we had a nice opening drive play up in towards that 560 here on the higher time frames. Key levels that we have for AMD today is just going to be that previous day highs. If we do want to see any sort of continuation towards the upside, at a minimum above our pre-market highs, another possible scenario is going to be above our previous day highs, 560, for continuation towards upside. So that's what we have for AMD coming into market open. There is a possibility we could see a rejection right off that 560. If we do, right, currently, as you can see, we are rejecting here, at least yesterday. Underneath our previous day low, we can see underneath our previous day lows, we could see a potential room down in towards that gap fill, which is our 520 here. So that's what we have for AMD. Keep an eye out on that 536 here as well. All right, let's talk about Nvidia. Nvidia here on the daily time frame. Key levels that we have, or we can look at this on the weekly time frame. So for Nvidia, the key levels that we have marked out is this previous level of resistance that is currently turning into support. Now what we like to see here on Nvidia is really break structure back towards the upside, preferably back above that 210. We can see a move back towards the highs. If we're looking at this one on the daily chart, this one is basing here, and now we're breaking back above a key level. I would like to see Nvidia move back up and towards this daily gap, which is that 208 here. If we go on to the hourly time frame, the key levels that we have marked out is now going to be our gap all the way back up and towards 207. Other levels that we have marked out here as well on the lower time frames is our 204. We can kind of readjust this one up into that previous day high. So this is that 204 level. Mark this out here on Nvidia. The key levels today is going to be that 200 bounce for a pushback towards the upside, or now above our 204 for a move back up and towards our 207 and above. So that's what we have for Tesla so far, or Nvidia on the higher time frames. If we go on to Apple, this one is holding up very nicely. We kind of talked about this flag pattern forming more so on the daily time frame that we'd like to see. Currently, we're kind of building up our base, and now we like to kind of form our flag for the next leg towards the upside above our 316 for continuation. All right, that's what we have for Apple. If you go on to the hourly time frame, the key levels that we have marked out is our 316 along with our 308. Above our 316 for continuation. Another possible scenario is going to be above our 308 for continuation towards upside. All right, let's go into a few other tickers. Do you ever find yourself having acid stomach gas? No, not necessarily. Right now, I'm just sick. That's why you guys can hear me mute my mic. But my voice is still a little bit sore from earlier into this week. It's not horrible, but in the mornings, I have to drink a lot of warm water, and sometimes I just gotta get a little bit of mucus out of my system. But yeah, let's go on to some other tickers here. We'll go into Google. A couple names, a couple of things kind of rotating back into software as of late. So we'll talk a little bit about that with some of the semis being a little bit weaker. But yeah, if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. All right, I see a couple names here. We'll go on to, we'll talk about Google and the rest of the tickers, and then we'll make our way into some other tickers here. So for Google, we are coming right back down into that 350 area. This is a very good, solid potential higher low here on the daily chart. So for Google, what we're forming at least here now is a potential kind of inverse head and shoulders. This is the exact level we want to see buyers step in for this kind of reversal trade back towards the upside. For Google, this is also our previous all-time highs here as well. You can see we overshot it, and now we're coming back for the retest. Keep an eye out on Google bounce off that 350 for a pushback towards the upside. Key levels that we have marked out on Google, as I mentioned, is that 350. If you want to be exact on the daily chart, you can kind of refine this level a little bit more if you'd like, down into that 350, or give it a little bit more wiggle room. But this is our exact level here. You can see some buyers stepped in yesterday right off that 350. Now what I like to see, as I mentioned, is more so a reversal trade above our previous day highs, or now the bounce off our 360 for a continuation back towards the upside. If you're looking at Microsoft, you can see a couple names trying to build a higher low on the daily time frame. So software is bouncing a little bit now. Microsoft bouncing, trying to create a higher low here on the daily. What I would like to see on Microsoft is still that push all the way back up in towards that 400 that I talked about. Yesterday, pretty big buyer stepped in. Daily candle close ended up closing back above that 380. So you can see buyers basically stepped in right off the bat. And we also had a strong daily candle close here as well. So for for Microsoft, the key levels that we have marked out, previous day highs, you can drag this down. Now what we like to see coming into today is above our previous day highs for this continuation up and towards that 390 and above here. As for Meta, you can see Meta did quite a bit in the pre-market. So as of late, Meta has been ranging quite a bit. We had some news a couple weeks ago. You can see yesterday's day, we ended up engulfing its full range within its past week. And also you can see we kind of engulfed its full range from the range that we had prior earlier in May and June. So for Meta, this one we also have some news last week that I talked about. We had some more news as well. Key levels that we have marked out on Meta now. Number one is our 630, which, as you can see, yesterday we kind of went from the low of the range, bounced all the way back up and towards the top of the range. And now we're continuing higher here as well. Plus we have this daily gap. So Meta is fairly strong as of late. Key levels that we can have marked out is going to be our 640. And then our next level, which is all the way back up and towards that full daily gap. So that's going to be one of the main targets for Meta today. We're going to keep an eye out on that previous day. There's a couple scenarios on Meta. Number one, key level is key levels here on Meta is going to be that 640, and then other levels is going to be all the way up into that pre-market highs, which is that 660 here on the higher time frame. So let's keep an eye out on Meta for a bounce play today up into that full daily gap fill, which is our 663. That's going to be the main ones. You can see a couple names, a couple things kind of rotating. The market's rotating a little bit back into software here as of late, within the past few days, and more so in specific. As for Amazon, this one's ranging. Just keep an eye out on the break above our 250. Netflix, there's really not too much to talk about on this one. This one's been in a downtrend. As for SpaceX, we're right at the low of the range. So for SpaceX, we would like to see a bounce here, but you can see so far now, ever since we had that IPO hype, this one's kind of been dropping. We would like to see a potential mini bounce play back up and towards that 160. The break underneath that 150 and hold, we can see a push towards the downside. Okay, with that being said, let's hop on to some other tickers here now as well. We'll go down the list. We'll talk about a little bit more on some software names. We'll take a look at Now, ServiceNow here in a bit. But yeah, if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can drop them in the chat. I'll go over some for the next kind of 5 to 10 minutes. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Our first name here is AVGO. This one had a nice bounce. The key levels that we talked about on AVGO is all the way down into that 360. Nice buyer stepped in. And now the key levels that we have is our previous level of support, now kind of turning into resistance. So for AVGO, we are at a very key technical spot here on the higher time frames. A little bit of rejection here yesterday. If we do want to see continuation towards if we do want to see any sort of continuation towards the upside here on AVGO above our previous day highs or above now this 396 for continuation. As for the SK Hynix, that IPO is being listed today. You can see DRAM has some holdings, but yes, that is going to take a little bit of liquidity out. But overall, the market in itself, at least for the semis and memory name, it's very bullish, right? It's a very good sign for the semis. Right now, you can see after MU earnings, we've had a little bit of a pullback on some of the memory names. But overall, long-term bullish, every single dip is going to be bought up on the higher time frames, especially on the memory and semis. Right now, there's a little bit of rotation out of some of the semis. That's after the MU earnings. But right now, it's just basing, right? There's a lot of other kind of key factors that come into effect here as well. But it's going to be fairly bullish for the overall markets. Okay, let's talk about Oracle. Oracle, a little bit of a bounce here right off the lows. So Oracle had a nice bounce earlier into the month, or sorry, last month. Now we're right at the low of the range. Oracle's been beaten down quite a bit. Right now, you can see we're at a key level support. We would like to see a potential mean reversion back up and towards this 160. But for Oracle, at least for today, key levels that we have marked out, just mark out our previous day highs. That's going to be one of the key levels. So if you want to see some upside above our previous day highs for continuation. Let's take a look at ServiceNow here. This one has been basing. This is one of Trump's buys earlier into the year. Right now, you can see we're basing above key technical level. We're basing above key technical levels. If you're looking at this on the weekly time frame here as well, we ended up rejecting here off this weekly 140. But now we're trying to base here on this weekly time frame. If we're on the daily chart here as well, you can see we're trying to base as well on the daily, kind of building up these higher lows. What I'd like to see now on ServiceNow is the break above our 110. A hold above our 110, we can see this potential flip here. If you look at this on the hourly time frame, the key levels that we have marked out is going to be basically this 110 along with this 112. The break above, potential continuation, flip back towards the upside. I do like this one a lot, more so on the higher time frames. Plus, of course, Trump, this is one of his biggest buys this year as well. So as long as we can maintain structure on the daily, the break back above our 112, we can see a pushback towards the highs. All right, let's take a look at MU and some of the semis here next. So for MU, this one, we kind of talked about the potential double bottom now. The structure on the daily time frame is still intact, but you can see it's definitely a little bit weaker. We broke underneath a higher low that we have created, and now we're kind of underneath these we broke underneath these EMAs here as well. So this one's definitely a little bit weaker on the higher time frames. And we're kind of rejecting right off of our key technical level, which is our level of support. We can just draw this out. You can see touch here, touch here, touch here. And right now we're kind of rejecting off our 1020, which if we want to see some upside above our 1020, if we want to see some downside rejection for our push towards the lows. So for MU, the key levels that we have marked out is, as you can see, this 1020. Other levels that we have marked out as well is all the way back down in towards the area that we broke out from, which is our 950. Other levels we can mark out previous day lows coming into today. So previous day lows, if we want to see some upside above our 990, if we want to see a rejection, we can see push down in towards our 950 here on the higher time frames. As for a few other tickers that we have marked out, SNDK, this one yesterday came right back into a key technical spot. The reclaim back above that 1050 is key. If we reject, we can see a push all the way back down in towards that 1700. INTC, this one's been a little bit weaker. You can kind of see we've been rejecting off our 1018 or never quite even came up into that 1018 yesterday and kind of rejected off the high that we created earlier into the week. And now we're back down at our 108. So semis, semis are definitely weaker the past few sessions. You can see that on the SMH that we talked about. So coming into market open, even Marvel and the rest of the names, right? Hoods is showing a little bit of strength here. This one is back up in towards the highs that we created earlier this month. So we'll keep an eye out on Robinhood for potential continuation. Now above our previous day highs. Let's actually just mark this out. So Robinhood above our previous day highs, we can be looking for continuation towards the upside here today, above our 120, or now it's going to be the bounce here off of 117 for continuation. So we'll keep an eye on that. SoFi starting to move nicely with, of course, Robinhood. If SoFi can break above our 1850, we can see a nice push back towards the upside here on this ticker. So that being said, at least for today, what's the game plan coming to market open? A couple names that are moving a little bit more nicely as of late. Some of the Mag 7s that have been beaten down quite a bit. The Qs is in between its previous day's range. So coming to market open, I'm going to be a little bit more patient. Going to wait for that first kind of 10 to 15 minutes to develop. Main watches for today that I do like: Apple. This one above our previous day highs. We're kind of forming this flat top break here on the higher time frames as well. So keep an eye out on Apple above our 316 for continuation. Meta is one of my favorite names so far based off the pre-market action. Keep an eye out on Meta, potential any sort of pullback up and towards that full daily gap on the higher time frames. And then other names that I do like Robinhood above our previous day highs or above this 120. So these are some of the main names coming to market open. As for the semiconductors, these ones are all a little bit weaker. So we'll be a little bit more patient. So we'll be a little bit more patient on those ones. And then as for the rest of the names, right, Tesla, we can keep an eye on Tesla above our previous day highs. And then for AMD and Nvidia, these ones are more so in the middle of the range here as well. So that being said, keep an eye on a couple names that look good. Meta, Apple, Robinhood. Those ones are above our previous day highs, trending so far in the pre-market and on the higher time frames as well. Besides that, I'm going to call it a session here. Hopefully by next week, everything should be good. And then I'll have a couple other things set up for you guys for the pre-market preps. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. I am going to, sorry, this week as of late, I have a temporary setup. So I've been doing a bunch of things. I'll try and get everything sorted by next week for you guys for the pre-market game plans, at least JT. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. And I'll see you guys all next week. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day and have a great rest of the weekend. Peace.